disconnect or act like we're not on Facebook Live.
No. I mean, let's just get back to a really serious conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, talking about what we're going to have for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey everybody, Ryan right here.
Hey, Spencer Townsend. So nice to be with everybody.
It's nice to be with everybody. This is Facebook Live Repartee Show, and we're going to be talking today about some very important things that you can do to make your life explosively better. And I'm not just saying that. You wouldn't think that a Facebook Live on sitting is going to make your life explosively better. But pay attention to these principles and you will find that your life gets exponentially better.
Absolutely.
1% improvement every day over 365 days is a lot of improvement.
Huge.
Don't ask me to do math at 4 p.m. on Thursday. But there's compound interest has an effect, or I would just say 365% better.
Right.
But that's not true because there's compound interest.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's not the real world, right? It's all about small incremental changes.
Amen.
For sure.
Yeah, by small and simple things, we're going to make great things happen in your life, starting with sitting exercises that you can do. So the world has changed, right? I mean, it continues to change. I know that for recreation, I know that for things like the way that we used to play sports for recreation as opposed to playing sports on video games for recreation, right?
Yep.
I'm not opposed to sports on video games, by the way. Did you ever play NBA Jam or?
I love me some NBA Jam. You get me some NBA Jam with some Utah Jazz on there. I'll be on fire all night with that team. You know what
Is
I'm
that
saying?
the only way you can dunk?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so for that reason though, we have more sedentary lifestyle. We sit more.
Yeah.
Our gadgets cause us to sit more. We have more work at the computer,
Mm-hmm.
and by it's going to cause a health cost, right? And so we're here today to just briefly talk to you about some anecdotes for that, right? And there's three major categories that you need to remember that will help you understand like what needs to happen if you have a more sedentary lifestyle. Like if you're sitting for your work or you're sitting even for your home life. There's three major categories, right? The first, you need to move often. Okay? The first is that you need to move often. Remember that. We use the phrase motion is lotion, right?
Absolutely.
So you got some squeaky joints that are a little bit rusty. Motion is lotion, right? Do you remember the second one of those major categories, Spencer?
It's all about whatever posture you're in, it's about reversing that posture. So whatever the majority of the time, that posture that you're in majority of the time throughout the day, it's about reversing that posture so you don't have the negative effects of that posture.
Right. And so if you think about like sitting in a chair, oftentimes, I mean, hold my phone for a moment here. So I'm just going to lift this chair here and you can see it has a nice rounded back. Is it any wonder why we get rounded backs? So reversing your posture is the second category, meaning we typically are in forward head, rounded shoulders, a low back that's flattened out, and we need to reverse that often as well. So move often, reverse posture. And the third one is exercise. Now we're particularly going to cue in on the exercise portion, but of those three major categories, pretty much these 5 exercises are going to touch on all 3.
Absolutely.
Right? We're going to help you reverse your posture. We're going to help you understand how to move more often, and we're going to help you see how some of the exercises that you do can get blood flow, nerves to feel better, because the nerves really like blood space and movement, and your nerves need that treat now and again, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to teach you some of that. So we're going to start with exercise number 1. I'm just going to cue my own notes here, if you don't mind. And the number 1 exercise for today, I hope you're all listening really close, is upper back extension. Okay, so this part of the spine where my hand's touching is called the thoracic spine. And it's made to curve forward a little bit, right? So it's made to curve forward a little bit. Problem is that we curve forward more than it's made to curve,
right?
Okay? And so when we extend our thoracic spine, it's part of that reversal of what's happening all day long to that thoracic spine. The exercise basically can be done a number of ways. Now, the way we're going to talk about today is on your back, and you can put a device under your back to begin, or if you're really stiff, if your back's really stiff and really flexed, it's enough just to lay on the ground sometimes, just to lay on the ground without a pillow.
Right.
For most people, you're going to be able to tolerate putting something behind your back, like a foam roller. If you haven't heard of a foam roller before, they're basically this cylinder made out of foam. And they can be, half the height of me here. But basically what you can do is you can put it on the ground. And if if you don't have a foam roller, another alternative, Spencer, would be to do what?
You could use a towel. I even used a pretty firm pillow that's rolled up,
Okay.
and then like just any sort of firm surface that you can use to provide some leverage for you to be able to extend that thoracic spine.
Oh, and at first it sounds like it hurts, but over time it feels so wonderful. So you can either get a foam roller from a number of places, but our clinics have these foam rollers, or you can just roll up a towel. Roll up a towel to where it's rolled up like this. You can either put it vertically, meaning, Spencer, why don't you turn here for a moment? We can either put that foam roller or towel vertically here while you're laying on the ground. So Spencer would lay on the ground on this towel, and effectively it would just bring his shoulders back over that towel. Or the second way to do it is to take that foam roller and do it what we call horizontally here. And both of those are very effective. And when you just lay on it and you just kind of extend over the back of that towel or foam roller, and what it does is it moves each of those segments of the thoracic spine in an opposite direction as what you're doing when you're sitting all day. So everything about the body is a miracle, really, if you ask me. The idea that the body responds to what stimulus we give it is amazing. So if you don't move it in that opposite direction, it's going to get used to staying forward and it's going to get rigid. Love that exercise, thoracic extension.
I think that's the key, Brian, because it's not necessarily that we're saying that sitting is necessarily bad. It's something that we do all day,
Right.
and that's fine, right? It's that if we are staying in that motion for too long, that's when it starts to get bad. So we just need to start reversing that posture and start reversing some of the negative aspects of sitting. So that's perfect as far as thoracic mobility goes. The thoracic spine needs to be able to move. But also what needs to be able to move is your hips, your pelvis, right? And when you think about it, when you're in a seated position, you're in a flexed position all day like this.
Right.
Exactly. So those knees are up all the way like this. Brian, you can actually see his a little
Oh,
bit. You know, I can't quite get there, but we're in that flexed position all day. And so in order, just like the thoracic spine, we need to be able to move those hips as well. So a great stretch for that is what we call a true kind of hip flexor stretch. When you think hip flexor, it's flexing the hip forward. So what I would do with this, you can either do that kneeling on one knee on the ground, the leg that you're trying to stretch, or you can do it standing. There's two different aspects to this that you
Maybe
need
I
to
can
get to.
tilt this camera a bit.
Yeah.
Here, guys, 1 second.
That would
There
be
we go. All right, here we go.
Perfect. So whenever you're thinking about hips, you want to make sure that what we call we want to tilt the pelvis backwards to try and get a little bit more stretch of the hip flexors right here. So what that looks like is imagine your hips kind of being like a bucket of water that you're tilting forward, tilting that water out, and then bringing it back, keeping the water in. You want to keep the water in on this one. So what you want to do is rotate those hips back, just like that, keeping that water in, and then I want you to lean forward. If you're doing this stretch properly, you should be feeling a stretch throughout the quads into the hip flexor here. This is important for mobility because all day, if you're sitting like this, you're in a flex position. This puts you into more of an extended position to reverse that posture.
Nicely done. Okay, let's see if I can line this back up here, Spencer.
Perfect.
Probably didn't get it perfect in the frame, but let's go to exercise number 3 now, which we call a chin nod. Now, a chin nod is also known as like a neck retraction. The neck has really 2 combined motions to make the full effect of what it does. We have the upper neck, which typically the upper neck when you're in sitting posture is extended up here. And the lower neck is usually in flexion or forward posture. And so with that, we want to reverse it, kind of like we talked about before. So what we do is we stand up real tall and we tuck our chin back, okay? And then if you want to add an extra stretch, while it's tucked, I can't say it while I'm doing it.
He looks funny too when you do it, you know what I mean?
While it's tucked, you want to do a chin tuck. So while you're back, then you do a chin tuck. And what that does is it flexes the upper neck spine, and it actually gets the lower neck to actually go back into extension. So it's the very opposite of what happens when we're sitting all day. We sit all day, head forward, head up. That can give some really bad tension headaches and create some other postural issues. So this exercise is gold. You just sit up real tall, retract the neck, and tuck the chin. You should feel a stretch right through here, right through the upper neck. It's gold. And it can get rid of some tension headaches.
Absolutely.
The way that we typically would recommend doing it is do that chin tuck, hold it for about 5 seconds, and you do about 10 reps. It's a beautiful way to reverse the posture throughout the day.
It's a great mobility exercise to get some stretch in the back of the neck here, but also you're strengthening those muscles here in the front of the neck that provide that flexion that is a reverse posture.
And those flexors in the deep neck are actually stabilizers.
Absolutely.
So imagine this big head being held up all day. Well, maybe in Spencer's case, but
Gotta
imagine,
for sure.
you're trying to hold up this bowling ball all day long, and your neck muscles have to engage for that to happen appropriately. So number 3 is a good one for you.
Perfect. And this next exercise, this fourth exercise, is basically a progression on that chin nod exercise, where we're going to incorporate some scapular motion, because remember
that tree and let you do it.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Because when you think about it, when you're sitting in a position like this, those shoulders hunched forward, flexed thoracic spine, so we want to reverse that motion. So what I would do, we call these a bit of a wall angel. Basically, you're going to gum into one of your chin tucks right here, okay? And while you bring your hands up into that kind of snow angel type position, I want you to retract your shoulders back like this, and then come out of it like this. So if I was looking into the side, shoulders, instead of rounding forward, you're retracting shoulder blades back, contracting those against the wall as you do that chin nod. And then relax. And then again, retraction, pinching those shoulder blades back and in, and then relax.
Love it. Yeah, and so for all intents and purposes, we have a set of muscles up here. We call them the pec minors, and there are a lot of other muscles that surround that. But the pec minors can get really short, right? Because we spend time shoulders rounded, sitting at the computer, and we don't even recognize it. So this one stretches that back out.
Absolutely.
Really good. And that's not the only thing. That's a big part of it. So
it's another mobility for the front aspect of the chest, and then strengthening for the back portion of the back.
love it.
So
Number
it's
5,
great.
my man.
Number 5 is basically whenever we were talking about getting those hips and the front of your hips stretched, we want to make sure we're strengthening the back of the hip. So what you would do in this particular exercise is I would have you lay on your back, bring both knees into a bent position, and all I want you to do is, while keeping your knees or keeping your feet planted on the ground, I want you to drive your hips forward while contracting your glute muscles or your butt muscles there. What that's going to do is that's going to strengthen the posterior aspect of the hips or the back of the hips, while you're providing some mobility for the front portion.
Love that. I love that. So in summary, 3 major categories that are important for people who are sitting, which includes almost everybody these days. We drive, we sit at computers, we sit at the table, we sit on a couch to watch TV. There's 3 major categories. Move often, because motion is lotion, right? Number 2 is reverse posture. And number 3 is exercise. And now out of those big 3, we broke it down to 5 exercises. Do you want to summarize those?
Yeah, we're talking about thoracic extension. Remember those on the foam roller or pillow, whatever it may be. Extension, the chin nod to get those neck flexors strong and that mobility going in the neck. Mixing that with those wall angels. Mixing that with the true hip flexor stretch, and then the bridges that we were talking about.
Wow, man. I got the 3 category to remember. He got the 5 and he nailed it. I would have definitely not cheated on you on test time, because I don't cheat. If I was going to pick someone, it would have been you. Yeah, A+.
I appreciate it.
As always, we always love to hear from you guys about what questions you have. We have so much we love to share with the Facebook Live world. There's so much we can do to be better in our lives and to have healthier lifestyles. That's what we're here for at Right PT. If you have questions for any of our PTs, please contact us. You can find a location near you throughout Idaho. If you go to rightpt.com, rightpt.com, WRIGHTPT.com, and you can find us on social media as seen here behind me. Otherwise, we're going to look for subjects that you guys want. Always, just let us know what it is that you guys want, and we'll prepare and deliver.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from you, Spencer?
No, I just to reiterate that sitting isn't necessarily bad. It's just we need to counteract that sitting with some sort of movement, exercise, and just reversing that posture as best we can.
I love it, guys. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be here next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.